Have you ever had one of those moments that felt too strange to ignore? Like you think about someone you haven't spoken to in months and later that day they call. Or the same kind of opportunity, the same type of person, the same type of problem keeps appearing in your life over and over again. Most people call these coincidences, luck or random chance, but what if they're not random at all? What if they're actually clues pointing towards something deeper about how our lives actually work? In physics, there is a phenomenon called quantum entanglement, and once you actually understand it, you start to see why certain patterns keep repeating in your life, why the same relationships, the same money struggles, the same fears keep finding their way back to you, and more importantly, how you can start changing what you connected to so your reality starts reflecting something different back at you. In this video, I'm going to explain quantum entanglement in a way that actually makes sense, and then I'm going to show you how it applies to your patterns, your relationships, your money, your life. So let's forget the complicated terms for a moment and imagine that you've got two coins. Not magic coins, just regular coins, but somehow these two coins are connected in a strange way. You flip one in Dubai and the second one sitting in New York, thousands of miles away, exactly lands on the same result instantly. No delay, no signal traveling between them, it just matches. That sounds impossible, right? But that's basically what physicists discovered happens with tiny particles. Two particles, they get linked, entangled, and after that, whatever happens to one instantly shows up in the other, no matter how far apart they are. And a lot of scientists hated this idea. They thought it broke the rules of the universe, but decades of experiments have confirmed it over and over. It's real. It's not a theory anymore. We build technology on this principle today. And this is where most people jump to the wrong conclusion, that this means your thoughts directly control reality. That's not what I'm saying, but there is a much more practical idea sitting right next to it, and that's what actually matters here. Think of it like this, that you're not a closed system, you're constantly picking up a signal from, let's say, the people around you, or the things you consume, or the thoughts you keep replaying, and that signal shapes what you put out. Not metaphorically, practically, measurably in your own behavior. Your habits, your self-talk, your relationships, your money patterns, all of this is a downstream of what you've been tuned to day after day, often without ever choosing it. And once you see that clearly, something shifts. You stop asking, why does my life keep repeating itself? And start asking a much more useful question, what have I actually been tuned to? And can I tune to something else? Now, if the real question is what you've been tuned to, the uncomfortable follow-up is, why do so many of us keep recreating the same life even when we're genuinely trying to change? You've probably made the promises like stop overthinking, get serious about your business, stop tolerating relationships that drain you, and get a handle on money. You meant every word, and a few weeks later, sometimes just within a few days, you're back in the same headspace, same reaction, same result. And the part that trips most people up is they assume the problem is discipline. Like, I need more motivation or a better morning routine or even stronger habits. And those things help, but they don't explain why the emotional state keeps returning even when the habits change for a while. And this isn't just theory. This is what took me from being a corporate lawyer, barely saving any money, to starting my own companies, making my first 6 figures in my mid-20s, and later negotiating multi-million-dollar deals. Now, think of your mind less like a to-do list and more like your social media feed. So you've noticed this, the algorithm on social media, it keeps showing you more of whatever you engage with. So if you watch a few videos on one topic, then suddenly that's all your feed shows you. And it's not because you asked for it, it's because you trained it, one interaction at a time. Your mind, it runs the same way. Discipline is like watching one different video and hoping the whole feed changes. It doesn't. One video doesn't retrain the algorithm, repetition does. What retrains is what you engage with over and over automatically without thinking about it. Now there is another way to look at it. Let me give you an example for that. For example, two people, let's say they lose a client on the same day. The first person's thought is, of course, I always find a way to mess things up. The other person's first thought is, okay, what can I learn from it? Same event, two completely different internal broadcasts. That gap didn't appear in the moment the client left, it was already tuned in months or years earlier from every time a setback got filed under "I'm not good enough" instead of "this is just what happened." That's the real mechanism, not positive thinking, training the algorithm. So every time you replay a thought or rehearse a reaction or sit in an environment that reinforces a feeling, you're not just having an experience, you're feeding the algorithm more of the same content. And a well-trained enough feed, it starts running on its own without you choosing it each time. It becomes the default content your mind serves up when it doesn't know what else to do. Like, look at what you're actually feeding the algorithm right now. Like your self-talk, for example, your expectations, the stories you've been repeating for years without even noticing. For example, "I've never been good with money," or "people eventually leave," or "I always self-sabotage right before something good happens." Those don't feel like beliefs anymore, they feel like facts. Like, that is exactly what a strong signal does. It stops sounding like an opinion and it starts sounding like the truth. Now, very simple way to look at it is, picture two people. The first person is spending 30 minutes a day on content that says the world is dangerous, people can't be trusted, nothing works out. 6 months of that, what station do you think they're tuned to? And at the same time, picture the opposite. Another person, 30 minutes a day around people who solve problems and they expect things to work out. Same brain, same intelligence, completely different signal and completely different life. It's the same with people. You already know the friend who leaves you lighter after every conversation and also the one who leaves you slightly heavier every single time you speak with them. Spend enough time on either frequency and some of it becomes yours. Not because you're weak, because that's how the algorithm works. You don't just consume content, you start producing it, which is exactly why just change the outcome, it never works long term. You can't get like a different result while staying still tuned to the exact frequency that produced the current one. That's not a willpower problem, that's a tuning problem. And it's the actual reason most change doesn't stick. Not because people don't try hard enough, but they're trying to change the outcome without changing what their system has been trained to repeat. Now the next move is obvious. If the algorithm got trained by repetition, it gets retrained by repetition. Which raises the real question, how do you actually retrain it? Not with a single breakthrough, not with one perfect morning routine or one powerful affirmation said once. The algorithm got trained slowly through repetition and it gets retrained the same way. Here's how that actually works. The first step is find out what you're actually feeding it. Because you can't retrain an algorithm you're not paying attention to. So for the next 24 hours, just notice. Pick one area, whether it's money, relationships, health, whatever's the loudest for you right now, and just catch the automatic reaction every time it shows up. Not what you would say you believe if someone asked you, what actually plays in your head at that moment. For example, of course this happened, or typical of me, I always do this. That reaction is not a side effect of your situation, it's the content you've been engaging with that helped create it. Now step 2 is name what you've been engaging with and pick something different specifically. And this is where most advice it gets vague, like just think positive. And vague does not retrain anything. Be exact and specific here. So if your automatic thought is I can never get ahead, the new one isn't everything is amazing, that's not believable. So the algorithm is not going to pick it up. It's something maybe closer to I'm behind where I want to be and I'm doing something about it today. Or if it is with people always let me down, try that some people will disappoint me and I'm still capable of finding the ones who won't. The new thought doesn't have to feel true yet, it has to be specific enough that your mind can actually engage with it instead of scrolling past it as noise. Now step 3 is engage with the new content until it's what shows up automatically. A few minutes a day, not visualizing a fantasy, actually feeling in your body. What would it be like if the new thought were already just how things are? This is the part people skip, and this is the part that matters most, because a thought you only think is weak, but a thought that you feel is the one your nervous system starts treating as normal. and normal is exactly what runs on autopilot. Do this consistently and something quietly shifts. Not because reality bent around a wish, because you stopped feeding the old content and started feeding new content, and eventually the new one is just what's playing when you're not paying attention, which is the only kind of change that actually holds. And this is what reality is yours actually means. Not that you'll bend physics with a thought, that your life, the repeating patterns, the recurring relationships, the same money story on a loop has been a readout of what you've been tuned to for years, mostly without choosing it. And once you know that, you're no longer just consuming the feed, you get to decide what you produce. So here's the smaller, more useful question. Not how do I change my whole life, that's too big to act on, just what did I rehearse today? Because whatever you rehearse today is the frequency you're a little more tuned to tomorrow. That's the whole idea. Not magic, not manifestation, just a mechanism you can actually use. Now, a natural next question comes that once you've actually changed what you're tuned to, how does that turn into a different reality? Like, what does that process actually look like? That's exactly what I break down in another video on how quantum manifestation actually works. The link is in the description and on your screen, and I'll see you there.